Good afternoon, welcome to Empower Today this Friday. I hope that you've had a fruitful, not a fearful week. It's up and down all through the week, isn't it? Some days you can be on an adrenaline high or just filled with joy for something that you've seen, and another day we can be in the depths of despair. God can cope with all manner of emotions and all the extremes that we have. I wouldn't want to be God, would you? I don't think I could cope in the way that God does. But God doesn't just cope, God actually loves us. Someone this morning needs to hear that God adores them, I reckon. You need to know that God adores you. I wouldn't say I adored Bruce Springsteen or adore him, but I do love him. He is one of the spiritual places that I go to drink from, one of those wells that I can draw deeply from and be nourished from. When I was a teenager, most of my friends here at church in Boys Brigade and band, they liked the band U2, and they're all right in my opinion, but I always like to be different, and so I decided I'm not going to like U2. I'm going to look for someone else to like. In the same way that when a lot of my friends got baptised, I thought I'm not going to get baptised this year. I'll get baptised later on in the next year. And so I looked around for an alternative to U2, and Bruce Springsteen's album Born in the USA had just come out, and I bought a cassette tape of it from W.H. Smith's. H or H, I'm not quite sure. H from Steps. That's another thing, I'm rambling. And my mum told me recently that whenever she hears Dancing in the Dark, the Bruce Springsteen song that is on that album, it fills her with emotion, because I would be listening to it on my cassette tape upstairs in my bedroom, and my dad would be muttering downstairs whilst he was watching Rambo. Why does he always have that song on so loud? It's not even a good song. Ooh, as he sat sweating with the sweat just drenching through his hairy chest. I loved that album, and I love all Bruce Springsteen's albums. I've only seen him in concert once, and that was in the summer of 2012 when Joe and I went to the Hard Rock Calling Festival in London, in Hyde Park. There were tens of thousands of us there. It was a moment that I'd been waiting for. I was anxious on the way up that he might not play the songs that I wanted him to play. I had three that I definitely wanted to hear, and the one I wanted to hear most, a song that I'm going to have at my funeral, is Thunder Road. It's a fantastic song. And Bruce Springsteen came out onto the stage with just a pianist beside him, and you can see this on YouTube if you want, if you go onto Hard Rock Calling Festival and type in Thunder Road. And he stood there and he said, "This is the first thing we played when my feet touched British soil in 1975, a little love letter for you." And he sang with acoustic accompaniment, Thunder Road. The screen door slams. Mary's dress waves. Like a vision, she dances across the porch as the radio plays. Roy Orbison singing For the Lonely. Hey, that's me, and I want you only. Don't turn me home again. I just can't face myself alone again. Don't run back inside, darling, you know just what I'm here for. So you're scared and you're thinking that maybe we ain't that young anymore. Show a little faith, there's magic in the night. You ain't a beauty, but hey, you're all right. Oh, and that's all right with me. If I'd sung that to you, I wouldn't have forgotten any of the words. It's funny, isn't it? When we sing the song, we remember them. When we have to read them, we may worry that we forget some. The beauty of that song is that it's about a boy who's a loser, who wants to date a girl who's a loser, whom no one else wants to date. And the beauty of that song is that he invites her to come and sit in the front seat of his car as they begin to go out together. And one minister said that you sat in the back seat of the car for certain activities, and so this man is showing dignity to the woman that he wants to date as he invites her into the front seat. Bruce Springsteen is loved by millions of people because his songs paint simple stories about losers like me, like you, who find hope in life and something worth living for. In the book The Gospel According to Bruce Springsteen, Jeffrey Smirnozik, you try and say that name, says this: there are any number of ways we can find to tell ourselves that we're just not good enough, that we don't quite measure up. We have to do more and do it better to be worthy enough to reach out and grasp that for which we truly yearn. But other voices call out to us too. These are the voices of those who believe in us, those who really care. And in Springsteen's songs, there's always somebody who cares, somebody who's calling you to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And he echoes the gospel of Jesus. The genius of Jesus is that Jesus came down and lived in this world and called us to be the best versions of ourselves that we could be by following him. He called losers like me and like you. And if you're uncomfortable with that term loser, I'd encourage you to get used to it. There's so much pressure in this world to be winners, to be the best. Facebook is a false representation of who we're meant to be. And all those other places that can be so helpful actually sometimes are just a massive pressure to prove ourselves and to be the best. Am I the best minister? I've got to tell you, I've stopped looking at what other ministers are doing on Facebook in their churches. Not because I couldn't learn from them, not because I'm jealous of them, but because I don't want to go down that ego road of thinking, well, am I better than them or are they better than me? Who's the winner? We've just got to get on and follow Jesus and accept that without him we're losers, but with him we're called to be something so much more. The brilliance of Jesus is like Bruce Springsteen. He used everyday stories to encourage us that he was with us and that he was there for us. He told stories about weddings, about farmers, about virgins, about parties, about banquets, about seeds, about vines, about sheep, about coins, about brothers, about fathers, about mothers. Only one of Jesus' stories takes place in church. That's worth thinking about. That's worth pondering. Because he wanted us to know, I think, that he's with us in our everyday lives. And that what we do in our everyday life is as important, more important, than what we do come church on a Sunday. I'm not downing church on a Sunday. I want to elevate the rest of the week, the everyday week, in which Jesus says to losers like me, and maybe you, follow me, because I've been searching for you and I want to be with you. One of Jesus' stories is in Luke chapter 15. He's told one before it and then he says this. Luke chapter 15 verse 8. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Does she not light a lamp, sweep the house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbours together and says, "Rejoice with me, I've found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents, who changes their way of thinking and changes their life. Jesus here likens God to a woman who has lost us, his coin, and searches everywhere until he finds it, until she finds it. And when God finds that coin, he doesn't go, "Oh, that's good, let's put it in his pocket and forget about it." He calls his friends and his neighbours and he says we need to rejoice. And that's what God has done for you and for me. When we said yes to Jesus and we followed him, God went crazy in the presence of the angels. Charles Spurgeon, in one of his commentaries, said over 100 years ago, the angels actually stop and look at God and how crazy God is going because we've been found by him. It's kind of like that embarrassing uncle at the wedding who dances and doesn't care what others think and everyone else stops and look. That's what God's like about you and me. The screen door slams. Mary's dress waves. A coin is lost and found, and heaven runs riot with celebration. Let's keep following Jesus as we try and stay safe in this lockdown period. Stay safe, friends. Stay safe.